Welcome back to Talk Tensors, everyone. We've got a really interesting one today. A paper all about how AI could change the way we think about eye care.
It's a big deal for sure.
Huge, yeah. So the paper's called Enhance Eye Disease Detection Using Learnable Probabilistic Discrete Latents in Machine Learning Architectures. It's a mouthful, I know. But the research is really tackling this problem that affects so many people.
Yeah, it's pretty wild when you think about it, right? Over 2.2 billion people deal with vision impairment or even blindness.
Yeah, it's a staggering number for sure.
It is, and the thing is, a lot of these cases could have been prevented or at least treated much earlier if we had more accurate diagnoses.
And that's where AI is starting to make a real difference.
Exactly. And this paper is all about a new approach using this technique called G-flow-out to really boost the accuracy and reliability of AI when it comes to detecting these eye diseases, from those fundus images they take at the eye doctor.
Oh, yeah. So G-flow-out, break that down for us a little. Sounds pretty complex.
Well, it is a pretty cutting-edge technique, but the idea behind it is actually pretty intuitive.
Okay, good.
It's all about making AI more careful, more nuanced in how it makes decisions, especially with these medical images that can be so complex.
Right. Yeah.
Imagine, you're teaching a med student how to diagnose an eye disease. You wouldn't want them jumping to conclusions just based on one tiny thing.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
You want them to look at everything.
Exactly, the whole picture.
Yep.
And that's what G-flow-out is doing for AI. It's helping it learn to focus on the most important information in the image, kind of like a detective zeroing in on the key clues,
I like that analogy.
And it does this by using these things called dropout masks. They basically block out parts of the image during the training process.
So it's almost like you're forcing the AI to work with incomplete information, making it think harder.
Exactly. It has to figure things out with less, which makes it more robust in the end.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and the researchers in this paper actually experimented with different types of these dropout masks, and they found that the best one was something called a bottom-up mask.
Interesting. What makes that one special?
So the cool thing is, the bottom-up mask isn't just randomly blocking stuff out. It's actually learning from the image as it goes, incorporating both the raw data and the context from the layers of analysis before it.
So it's like building a deeper understanding step by step, like a human would.
Right. It's getting more and more sensitive to these subtle patterns and variations that might be missed otherwise.
So instead of just looking at everything equally, it's prioritizing, like a doctor would.
Exactly. And that's a big deal.
It is. But how did they know it was actually working? How did they test this whole approach?
Well, they really wanted to make sure this wasn't just a fluke, right? So they tested their AI model on 3 different data sets of fundus images, ODR, RFMD, and JSAC.
Okay, and these data sets, I'm guessing they had tons of images?
Thousands, covering a whole range of eye diseases, both common and rare ones. They really put it through its paces.
Yeah, for sure. But I bet they didn't stop there. I mean, in the real world, images aren't always perfect.
You're right. They actually took it a step further and started adding different types of noise to the images.
Oh, wow. To simulate those real-world imperfections.
Exactly. Things like variations in lighting, maybe the patient moved a little during the scan, even tiny dust particles on the lens.
It's like a trial by fire for the AI, seeing if it can handle the messiness of reality.
Exactly. And the results were impressive. The models that use G-flow-out, especially the one with that bottom-up mask, consistently did better than the standard models. More accurate, better at handling the noise, and this is important, better at knowing when it wasn't sure.
Wait, hold on. AI knowing when it's not sure? That's pretty wild.
It is. They measured this using something called entropy. Think of it like a measure of how surprised the AI is by the data. So if it sees something it hasn't seen much before, its entropy goes up. It's basically saying, this is new to me. I need to be extra careful here.
So it's like a red flag saying, maybe a human should double check this one.
Exactly. It's all about building that trust in medical AI. For decades, computer vision researchers have been trying to find ways to make AI more robust to these real-world variations in image quality.
Right. The early systems really struggled with that.
Absolutely. They relied on these handcrafted features and rule-based systems that were, kind of brittle, hard to generalize.
Then came deep learning, and that felt like a huge leap forward.
It was. But even with deep learning, getting AI to work reliably in those messy real-world conditions has been a huge challenge.
Yeah, I can see that.
And that's why this paper is so exciting. G-flow-out is like a breakthrough. It's not just about making AI more accurate, it's about making it more self-aware, more careful.
More trustworthy, ultimately.
Exactly. It's really cool to see how AI in medical imaging has kind of followed the same path as AI in general.
In what way?
Well, we started with those rule-based systems, remember? They were okay for simple stuff, but really struggled with anything complex.
Right.
Then
Well,
we got deep learning, and suddenly everything changed. These models could learn all these intricate
yeah,
patterns.
but they weren't always so reliable.
Exactly. And in healthcare, you really need that robustness and transparency.
Yeah, absolutely. The stakes are so much higher.
Right. And that's what makes this paper so exciting. It's not just about making AI a little bit better at recognizing images. It's about tackling those fundamental challenges.
The uncertainty, the need for it to work in the real world.
Exactly. Building AI that can actually partner with doctors, not replace them.
That's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah.
This collaboration between human and machine.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the novel notions section. This is where we kind of push the boundaries a bit, take the findings of the paper and explore those what ifs.
Oh, I love the what ifs. This is where things get really interesting.
Right. So we've talked about how this AI can detect diseases and even figure out how certain it is about those diagnoses. But what if we could take that even further? What if we could use G-flow out to actually predict how a disease might progress in your eye over time?
Whoa, hold on. Predict the future of your eye health.
Exactly. Imagine the AI looks at your fundus image today and says something like, based on what I'm seeing here, there's a 75% chance you'll develop severe diabetic retinopathy in the next 5 years.
That would be incredible, but also kind of scary, But how would that even work? Wouldn't you need a ton of data, like way more than just those static fundus images?
Oh, absolutely. You'd need longitudinal data following patients over years and years.
Decades even, maybe.
Possibly, yeah. And you'd have to combine G-flow out with other AI techniques like time series analysis.
Right, right. Because it's not just about the image itself. It's about understanding all the individual factors that contribute to someone's risk.
Exactly. Genetics, lifestyle, all that stuff plays a role.
So it's like creating a personalized roadmap of your eye health.
I like that, a roadmap. And then
Yeah.
based on that roadmap, you could make much more informed decisions about prevention and treatment.
It would be like a paradigm shift in healthcare, moving from reactive to proactive.
Absolutely. But, there are some ethical considerations here too, right? Predicting someone's future health, like that raises some big questions.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What if this information fell into the wrong hands?
Exactly. Discrimination, denial of insurance, all sorts of things could happen.
It's a double-edged sword, for sure.
It is. But on the other hand, think about the potential benefits. If we could identify people at high risk early enough, we could potentially prevent vision loss altogether.
It's all about finding that balance, right? The responsible use of this incredible technology.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about predicting the future of individual eyes, but let's go even further. What if we could use G-flow out to create a virtual model of an entire eye?
A virtual eye, what would that even look like?
Think of it like a digital twin of your eye, a 3D simulation that evolves over time, just like your real eye does.
Wow, that's mind-blowing. And what could you do with that?
So much. You could test different treatments, simulate the effects of lifestyle changes, even predict how the eye would respond to new therapies that haven't even been invented yet.
It would be like having a virtual laboratory for each patient.
Exactly. You could run all these simulations, explore different scenarios, and personalize treatment in a way that's just not possible right now.
And think about what that could mean for drug development.
Oh, absolutely. We could test new drugs on virtual eyes before even starting clinical trials.
That would be incredible, but also, let's be real, this sounds like something out of science fiction.
Yeah, it's a moonshot idea for sure. It would require a massive leap forward in our understanding of the eye and the computing power to create these simulations.
But sometimes those crazy ideas are the ones that lead to the biggest breakthroughs.
I agree. Who knows, maybe someday this will be standard practice.
It's a future worth fighting for sure. Okay, let's bring it back down to earth for a moment. This paper might not be creating virtual eyes just yet, but it is making some big strides in an area called out-of-distribution evaluation. Okay, so remind me, what exactly is out-of-distribution evaluation? Why is it so important when we're talking about AI in medicine?
Yeah, it's a crucial thing, but people often don't give it enough attention. Imagine you've trained your AI on all these fundus images, right? But let's say they all came from a fancy eye hospital in some big city.
Okay, I'm following.
So the AI gets really good at spotting diseases based on that data, that specific set of images. But then what happens when you try to use that same AI in, like, a rural clinic.
I see what you're getting at. The equipment's different, the lighting might be different, the patients themselves could be different.
Exactly. It's encountering data that's outside of what it's used to, what it was trained on.
It's like using a map of New York to try to find your way around London.
Perfect analogy. That's the challenge of out-of-distribution data. Medical data in the real world is so varied, so diverse.
Right, so many factors at play.
Imaging equipment, patient populations, even how the diseases show up can be different.
So if we want AI that can help everyone, it can't just work in a bubble.
Exactly. It has to be able to handle new stuff, data it's never seen before.
Generalize, like they say.
Right. So how did the researchers in this paper deal with this challenge?
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Did they train their AI on a bunch of different data sets to cover all their bases?
Well, they did something even smarter. They took one of their data sets, the JSAC one, and they set it aside specifically as an out-of-distribution test set.
So it was like the final exam with all the trick questions.
Exactly. This JSAC dataset had all these different diseases and image characteristics compared to the training datasets.
So really pushing the AI to its limit.
Putting it to the test. And the results were really interesting. The model with G-flow out, especially the one with that bottom-up mask, it had a much higher entropy score on the JSEC dataset compared to the baseline model.
Okay, entropy again.
Well,
What does that tell us in this context?
So remember, entropy is like a measure of uncertainty. Higher entropy basically means the AI was more aware that it was in unfamiliar territory.
So it was like saying, hold on, I'm not so sure about this one. Better get a second opinion.
Exactly. It's being honest about its own limitations, which is crucial in medicine.
We want cautious AI, not AI that's overconfident.
Right. It all comes back to that idea we were talking about earlier. AI in healthcare should be about augmenting human expertise, not replacing it.
This collaboration, this partnership between human and machine.
Exactly. And this paper really highlights how we can design AI that's not just accurate, but also reliable, transparent, accountable.
It's a really exciting step forward. So any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
I think this research gives us a glimpse of what the future of AI in healthcare could look like. It's not just about building algorithms that can beat humans at some task. It's about developing AI that can work with us, help us make better decisions about our health.
AI that understands its own limits, that can adapt to new situations.
Right. Ultimately, it's about using AI to empower both patients and doctors.
I love that. Well said. And for our listeners, if you want to dive deeper into the nitty-gritty details of this research, check out the full paper. We'll have the link in the show notes.
And as always, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, your own novel notions, anything that comes to mind. Hit us up on social media.
Keep those neural networks firing, everyone, and we'll see you back here on Talk Tensors for another deep dive into the world of AI.